So welcome back guys to We Talk Boxing, and today I'm going to be talking about the fight which is coming up on the 5th of April between David Adeleye versus Jeamie TKV. Now this fight is set to take place in Manchester on the 5th of April at Co-op Live Arena. Now initially the headline for this fight was meant to be Joe Joyce versus Dillian Whyte. We now know that Dillian Whyte has obviously pulled out due to injury. And currently, Lawrence Okoli is obviously pulled out as well with his bout against Richard Riakporhe. I think they're trying to find Richard an opponent so that he could continue to fight on this bill, but nothing's been announced yet. But this video, I am going to be talking about the co-main event, David Adeleye versus Jeamie TKV. Now, this sees the pair go up against each other for the first time, and this time for the British heavyweight title, which has recently been vacated from Fabio Wardley, who he moves up now to world level, looking to set his sights and hopefully maybe an interim title for the world, or maybe a world title clash. We don't know yet. Now I'm going to assume that majority of my viewers know who David Adeleye is, so I won't dig too much in terms of his physicality stats, but in terms of his opponent, Jeamie TKV, not a lot of people have probably heard of him or have probably seen him fight, but he's currently got a record of 9 total fights with 8 wins and 1 loss on his record. Now that 1 loss, it was a TKO loss, and he has 5 KOs of his 8 wins as well. Now just looking on BoxRec, that TKO loss came back in 2023 against the guy that I've not heard of, and this was back in York Hall. So yeah, not heard of his opponent, Ignor Macedo. I think I pronounced that right, but you guys will probably know, maybe have heard about this guy, but I haven't. But again, in terms of opposition, people that Jeamie TKV's been in there with, he hasn't really been in there with any big noticeable names, not of yet. This will be the biggest name of his career. Michael Webster was his last opponent. Yeah, half decent opponent, I should say. Solomon Dakers fought him twice. And obviously he lost twice to Solomon Dakers, but again, not really a massive name, I should potentially say. However, in terms of Jeamie TK, he's not a young pup. He's 31 years of age, and in terms of his professional career, he started that back of just a few years ago, 2022. So 3 years as a pro so far, but he's got a amateur, well, a half decent amateur pedigree of 40 bouts in total, where his record stood in the amateur game as 29 wins, 11 losses. And out of those wins that he had in an amateur, he only had 1 KO win as well. So again, you can see that he spent a good proportion, 7 years in fact, as an amateur before decided to turn over as a pro. But Jeamie TKV, as I mentioned earlier, is not exactly young in terms of age. He's 31 years of age, 6'4", 193 centimeters according to BoxRec, and he resides and fights out of London in terms of living in Tottenham. Now, in terms of David Adeleye, looking at those stats that I've read out, I can't see him being too worried in regards to his opponent, because for me, I think there could have probably been a little bit more sterner test for the British title, because you have to remember this title gives you a route into the top 15 rankings in all governing bodies, because you're pretty much recognised as a legitimate fighter because you're the Britain's best fighter, I should say, because you got the British title. But in terms of David Adeleye, there's not a lot to say really. He's still a young pup in terms of being a heavyweight. He's only had 14 bouts as a professional and only had 1 bout as an amateur. Now, the funny thing is, when you look at his BoxRec as an amateur, that amateur bout was back in 2013. He had 1 bout, and then something happened for 6 years. Possibly personal or maybe ill health, I don't really know. But he came back in 2019, so he had that 6-year layoff before coming back as a professional. But yeah, he's only had 14 fights since 2019, and he's only 28 still, so he's still quite young as a heavyweight. Because a lot of these heavyweights now go into their 40s. So if you do the math, he's got another 12 years to pretty much stick around if he wants to be around that long. So who knows what he could do in the game at that point? Because when you look at people like Dillian White and Zhilei Zhang and Alexander Usyk, AJ, Tyson, these guys are all getting close now to their 40s, I should say. Now, lastly, before I give you guys my prediction, just scrolling down on obviously David Adeley's record. He's only had 14 fights, but to me, he's only taken on two decent opponents, I should say, not half decent. Fabio Wardley and obviously Solomon Dakers. So this is going to be another decent name on your record, and hopefully you could continue to start building and adding these other bigger names on his resume, because it just makes him a bit more of an accomplished fighter, because he's taking on all different types of skills, getting more experience, and he's adding half decent names to his record as well, because when looking back, you don't want to be, let's say, 25-2 or 20 or 30-0 or whatever it is, and you're having no one on your record. Now, this fight for me is going to do a couple of things. It's going to enlighten me in terms of seeing Jeamie TKV perform for the first time. So I haven't seen him fight before, so this is going to give me a little bit more insight into who he is and what he could do. But also, it's going to be a fight where I believe David Adeleye should come through this and become the new British champion. Because if he wants to get to where he says he could get to, he has to come past people like Jeamie TKV. No disrespect to Jeamie TKV, I've not seen him fight, but he's nowhere on that level yet. And if he was to beat David Adeleye, he's going to be at that level. And how would you see Jeamie TKV match up against someone like Fabio Wardley or Lawrence Coley or Derek Chisora? Do you know what I mean? These are the kind of people that he's going to be up against, because he's going to be put on that world scene. And obviously he's going to want to try maybe take on some of the best in the world and try and claim some world honours, I should probably say. I can't get my words out. So yeah, so I predict that David Adeleye will come through this test. It is a 10-rounder, so maybe the second half of the fight, maybe around 6-7 onwards, David Adeleye should get him out by that point. I can't see it going the distance. I think it could be an early, quick knockout, maybe in the first 2 rounds, but it all depends on how durable Jeamie TKV is. As I said, I've not seen him fight before, so I don't know how durable he is. He hasn't really been in there with any real noticeable of names. But you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you watched Jeamie TKV fight before? Is he a durable fighter? Is he a big puncher? Has he got skills? Do you think he could beat David Adeleye? Let me know your thoughts, guys. And from here, if David Adeleye is to come through this test and become the new British champion, would you prefer him to maybe stick around this level, have a few more fights similar to what Fabio Wardley did, or maybe just progress straight away onto world honours? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, please subscribe and comment. Bless.